Dude, Steven, this is the hospitality since I've been down here has been fucking awesome, man. Thank you so much. This has been great.
It's so great to have you.
So coming down here, obviously, I'm a huge fan of the in-place model. When I had you on the podcast about a year ago and we talked about this, and I got to see it digitally from afar, it was, of course, like in my head, I know in-place makes sense. I know the math of it. Mm-hmm. But when you're literally putting this together and you're essentially, for your customers, you got to do this in the veil of COVID when everyone was doing in place. Mm-hmm. And then you just kept it. And I've heard a lot of gym owners say, I'm keeping my squares or my in place thing as well. I think the customers like it. I think the gym owners really like it. Could you talk to me about the benefit of an in place model like this using your brand of it, the Halo model, which is 169 square feet, a 13 by 13 box. Mm-hmm. Just talk a little bit about, from a coaching headache perspective, some of the things that are alleviated from, because you've been doing this for years, the old way when you were previously a CrossFit affiliate. Right.
Yeah. So, even pre-COVID, it always was going through my head. We have to come up with a better way to create a great class experience for the people that keep the lights on. The 95% of your customers that just want to come in and have a great group class experience and do really fun and effective workouts. The old model, the old system that we had was the open floor plan. It was the traditional CrossFit model. And I always looked at it and said, gosh, how awesome would it be if everybody just had their own spot, their own station, and think of what we could do from a class experiential standpoint. And so it was always kind of going through my head. And, I thought about maybe doing lanes, or I thought about, doing this system, which is more of like a grid system. And, it was always just sort of there. And then the pandemic hit. We're in Seattle, so we were closed for 3 months initially. And during that first closure, I just, I decided that things were so messed up anyway that we're going to do this thing that I've always wanted to do, and we're never going back. And I told the team, when we open, we're opening up with an entirely new experience in a different model. And it's going to be very bootstrapped at first. Just like everybody else, we just put the hodgepodge pods on the floor.
Yeah, whatever equipment you had, that kind of scenario, yeah.
Exactly. And so we started running it, and all of a sudden the customers are coming in, we like this better. This is more efficient. And, I asked the team, what do you guys think of this? This is easier to coach because it takes all of the herding out of the class experience, which is an art that the instructor has to be really good at. And, the reality is that every gym, even if it's an open floor plan, is still a pick a spot model. You still got to go get your shit and come out and find a spot on the floor.
Sure.
And but it's awkward.
It's just inconsistent, messy. It's not repeatable. It's not projectable.
Exactly. And so, now what this does is, 90% of the work that is on the instructor for delivering a great class experience, which is organizing the room, running a great warm up, setting the tone for the class, being able to handle new people and experienced people simultaneously in that dynamic, keeping the advanced people engaged while at the same time, making it so that the new person feels included. All of these dynamics are with this system, they're gone.
Yeah.
And you just can get somebody in their Halo and basically say, follow along. I got you. And in all of the other stuff about delivering a great class experience is taken care of. So we can get right down to what we do best, which is coaching great movement and teaching better movement and then bringing it. Because the coaches, they're not running around frantic all across the gym trying to, make sure that, Timmy doesn't get killed by Sammy.
Yeah. And the best part is, in me watching this, imagine for any of the gym owners and coaches listening, again, when Sally's doing a movement wrong and you're like, okay, I'm going to triage the room. She needs my attention. I'm going to make my way over to her. You get over to her and she sets that barbell down and then she starts walking over to the rowers, to the pull-up bar, to the wall ball station or whatever it may be. And you're like, fuck, I got to wait. When they're in place, exactly, they're not going anywhere.
Yep.
You can walk right up to them. And also the nice thing about the in-place thing, we talked about, like, at Urban, I had an in-place model, yet we had like an erg wall. So the only movement, they had to leave their spot to go to the erg station. There's never a reason to leave. Like, you're always right there. And even I'm just looking in some of the comments and having some one-off, DM conversations with people who are watching some of the stories and videos I'm putting up while I'm here. And it's like, yeah, but And again, like I told you yesterday, I'm like, there's no way any micro gym, barbell-based strength and conditioning, CrossFit, whatever, gym owner could come in here and look and say like, okay, yeah, this is definitely smarter. This is more efficient. I think they look at it and they go, they want to find a reason to dislike it. Like, oh, it's aesthetically, it's a mess. I'm telling you, you get in here and you watch people. And now let's talk about the client experience, because I got to have the client experience yesterday. Yeah. And, you're across the hall from me on your station. I'm at mine. I've got some cool people around me. And it feels like we all are in our own space, which gave me a better feeling, even the autonomy of doing my own thing. So I'm moving a tempo, or I might modify this movement, and it doesn't feel as awkward like when you're in a CrossFit class and maybe you're all on the rig and everyone in the rig is doing front squats and you're like, oh my God, my wrist hurts, whatever, but I'm gonna feel like a pussy if I do that. I'd rather do a deadlift or a back squat instead. And now you're the one that doesn't belong. Like if my sixth grader came out, I had to play that game in the coloring book, like pick the animal that doesn't belong, she'd pick that guy out. But in here, because you have your own spot and they're all kind of segmented, it's like you have your own little workout universe, and you can make the workout what you want, and you don't feel like it doesn't feel as obvious to the rest of the class that you're doing something different, because you've got your own dedicated area. So when you switched it, everyone with COVID, it was kind of like, because you had two things working for you.
Yeah.
You got to drop your CrossFit affiliation during COVID and because of the Glassman thing, which I feel like you were on the precipice of it anyway. There's no reason for you to have kept it. Like you had a strong brand. You were on 2 locations at that point. And for anyone like Steven, we met, we were both giving keynotes at this event, and you were giving yours 2 years in a row on branding. Like you've done such a great job of that. I would say that's probably definitely one of your entrepreneurial like superpowers as far as that goes. Yeah. So you kind of had your own brand. But it was like CrossFit, this constantly varied functional movements, this barbell thing, that's what your people liked. So it's like, well, why do it? Like for you to pay $3,000 a year is no skin off your back. But it's like COVID, you're in the PNW, a little bit more progressive. The whole Glassman thing pissed people off pretty significantly in your gym especially. And then COVID allowed you to kind of really go deep into this. I mean, could we say that COVID was probably one of the better things that happened to your business model?
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. It's been the worst thing that's happened to us, but the best thing that's happened to us. I think that for us, we've always sort of embraced this ideology that, crisis can be a good thing because it forces you to do the unthinkable. Yeah. And it's the unthinkable that can take you to a whole new level of performance, to much greener pastures than what you ever thought possible. There's so many different examples that we can draw from. I think that for most gyms that got hit with COVID, I mean, it was devastating for all of us, but I think that a lot of people just said, we're just going to close and we'll reopen when we can reopen, and this sucks, or let's just do a speakeasy gym and run operations anyway. But we viewed it as an opportunity rather than to sort of get down in the dumps and panic and stuff like that. We got to work on how we can create a better experience for our customers, use the closure to our advantage. This place moves quick. Industrious has always been a busy, vibrant place, so we have tons of classes. There's never enough time to get all the stuff done. Sometimes there's never enough time to stop and think as a team. And we took that as an opportunity to get strategic and think about, okay, what are all of the things that we're doing right now that are really, really good? And how can we improve the operation in general to make it even better, to make it more efficient? The old system was so inefficient. It was a 60-minute class, it was 2 modules, strength, then we'll just call it CrossFit. And it took 60 minutes to get through it because all of the lost time of having to go get your shit. People going
to get the barbell, bringing it back, and we're switching out and put your rowers, that whole thing?
Yeah, exactly. In organizing the room, and then at the end of the night, you have to reset the table in a different way for your customers that are coming in the next day. And so the staff is there till really, really late. And, so we just looked at all of these things that were inefficient, and we said, let's make it really, really efficient. But let's make it efficient and also at the same time deliver a better experience for what everybody wants here, which is a great group class experience in something that's consistent every day that they can rely on.
Yeah, I mean, people don't, like a lot of gym owners, I guarantee they just listen to that, and a couple of them snarked and they said something like, what? So what? It takes what? Maybe in a total class, 5 to 10 minutes? I'm like, that's a sixth of the class. And you run on the same thing I did at Urban, which I'm a big fan of. A lot of my opinion, the more sophisticated brands do this. They run on a 50-minute window, and they transition classes over every 60 minutes, essentially, type scenario. When you're talking 5 or 10 minutes, that's a significant chunk of that class to lose, and you're losing it, and you don't even know to the degree. We've all know it should take someone maybe about 35 seconds to a minute to go and swap that out, but on the way there, boy saw girl that he's been wanting to talk to or whatever, or saw his buddy and there's some chit-chatting, and now you have to be kind of the dick like, hey guys, hurry up, let's get back.
Right.
And for the gym owners that are sitting here listening to this, that were snarking at your comment, think about that. I guarantee you've had to like interrupt people's conversation time and do all this to get going, and you get upset. You're like, no guys, pay attention, I'm up here at the whiteboard talking. In this model where everyone's kind of at their spot, you don't have any of that issue.
You don't. You're so right in bringing that up, because that was always one of my big, as an athlete in class or as a coach coaching the class, when the coach or the environment or the people or the programming get me cold, I get pissed. And I think that everybody does. There's nothing worse than standing up there, listening to, the coach talk about nothing, or, go deep into movement while you're just standing there not working out. You just get cold and stiff, and then it's 3, 2, 1, go. And then you got to warm up for the first 3 minutes of the workout. So it's always driven me crazy. And the tempo of class has always driven me crazy, because you're right. People become disruptive. And, I do think that people are like, or other gym owners they're thinking to themselves, oh, that's only a couple minutes of class. But those few minutes of class every day, that daily pinprick of, I got to go in there and listen to that coach, or stand around for 20 minutes just to get in a 15-minute workout and talk about like favorite ice creams and, what we're doing this weekend and shit. Like, all that stuff is good. It's fine, but let's get the workout done first. And then in your post-workout high, go to the back to the social space, hack it up, yak it up. That's sort of our MO. So now, when class starts, people come in, they take their spot. We warm them up for 7 minutes. We do a 7-minute, that's just like a general warm up, set the tone for the class, get the energy up. Then we do a specific skill acquisition piece, or a specific warm up. If we're cleaning, we take them through a clean progression. If we're going to be doing pull-ups or toes to bar, something like that, we're doing hollow and arch progressions. It's skill work, and it's valuable. And at the 15-minute mark, we say 90 seconds. First set is in 90 seconds. First build-up set's in 90 seconds. And then we're going into the back squat piece as an example. And we run through that on the minute lifting, which this system allows us to do. You can't do on the minute lifting in the context of group, because there's not enough equipment for everybody, and they can't get across the room to grab the weights that they need. When it's right on them, you can though, because they can lift, they can set, and they have the resting
or
interval.
They have to do the thing where you got to bring out a whole bunch of plates out ahead of time, because you're like, that on the minute I'm going to add some more weight, but I don't really know how heavy I'm going to go today, so I'm just grabbing a bunch of random plates to be here for that. And that's such an inefficient pain in the ass.
Right.
And just to go back to just even the time of your 50-minute class, there's a lot of gyms like, tell me you run a 60-minute class. Like, show me that you run a 60-minute class, and your workout, you use the entire class, and you run classes on the hour, and I'll show you a gym that's always starting late. I fucking promise you.
Yep.
There's no goddamn way that you're using the entire 60 minutes and instantly transitioning with good client experience. Like, there's always the one client who's a little slower. Maybe they really got their butt kicked in that workout, and they're like still cleaning up when the next class is getting started, or you're having to rush it. And then, God forbid, the fuckers that still do like a 4-time workout, right? And there's someone who's still finishing at the very end, and 80% of the gym is already finished, like that kind of scenario. When you look at this model of the halos, so 169 square feet, was there a previous version that was smaller or bigger? Like, how long did it take for you to properly land on that number?
Yeah. So when we first did it, I forget what the dimensions were, because it was all hodgepodge COVID stuff. I think it was 10 by 10.
Okay.
And, we just had the equipment that we have is all bootstrapped. Some of the halos had a rower and a bike, and then other halos had a ski erg and a runner. And then like a small set of weights in the corner with a barbell stuck right in the middle of it. And I think that was 10 by 10. But then as we started to think about like, okay, in the dream halo, what would need to be in there? We know that we need, runner, rower, bike. We know that we need a pull-up structure and, wall ball target. We know that we need a bench, and we're going to need a plyo box. And so how do we make that fit? And how do we make it fit so that we can do it in an efficient way where you can get through all the different pieces of equipment efficiently and quickly, get to what you need quickly, but also do it in a way that doesn't feel so tight that you can't can't move in there. And because we needed the mobility, we needed the option downstream. We knew that it was going to be popular, and it was. I mean, it is. And we knew that we were going to need the option on higher capacity days to be able to put 2 people in a halo. And once we get going in the workout, they're not even close to each other. One person's like on the runner as an example, while the other person is doing the power clean set on the floor, and then switch and rotate. But for that warm up, we needed them to have enough room to be side by side, so that way in a linear fashion, they could both be doing dumbbell snatch at the same time, or both be doing burpees or push-ups or sit-ups at the same time.
Let's give reference point for everybody. So we are at the South Lake Union location. How many halos do we have in this one?
19.
19 halos. Okay, so you have 19 participants. On your busy days, you guys will go ahead and then double up. So essentially we can go ahead and we can 2x the utilization of that class. Now, on these, you have to be creative with the programming, because the halo probably, let's say you're working out with Sally, you guys might like having 2 barbells into halo. So are you guys purposeful? Like, okay, when we do the double days, maybe we're doing more dumbbell based stuff, or do you put 2 barbells in there? Because you can't share the same bar, or like, do you fit in time to change the way? How does that work?
Totally. Well, as you're talking there, I thought back about how hard it was to start doing partner workouts, because we were just coming out of like the mask mandates just being lifted. And everybody that wanted to partner up same household. It was, yeah. And so it was not the system, systems work when the system is followed. And so, it took a long time to get people to be like, no, like, you have similar anatomical features, you have similar fitness, you guys need to jam together. And so to get people to do that, once we finally got them to do that, now it's awesome, because they just come in, they know it's like, oh, Stu's in the room, Stu's my boy, I'm gonna, Stu, we're in Halo 19, see you there in 5 minutes.
Dude, the culture difference is so funny. When we were opening back, we opened up illegally. I mean, these kids, my members, they would have been like, if the workout called for like 5 rounds of coughing in the person next to you's mouth, they would not have cared. Like, there was just like zero fucks given in it. And then, but I mean, you guys, we talked about this yesterday, you guys got hit so hard. You guys got hit early. I have other gym owners that I talk with and know down here in the area, and it just like, it was a really tough spot. It was, I think, a lot of cultural concern more around it than maybe other parts of the country. And it was one of the early spots that was a metropolitan, buzz house that just got hit with it. Do you find any kind of badge of honor for any gym that made it through COVID? Like, when I hear, now we have, they've come to me with a problem, like, you do realize you made it through COVID, right? Like, if you can do that, like, most shit's gonna be, we can figure most shit out.
Right. Yeah, I do. Anybody that's still in the game is, they're tough. And that is, that's who you want in the fitness industry. I do believe that, as practitioners with this, there is a form of us that exists to be inspirational to people, to teach people grit and resilience. And there wasn't a better example of putting that on display and sort of leading by example in that regard than, having our business completely derailed by this thing. And, to show our customers that we're not going to quit, that we're going to show up every day and we're going to figure it out. I think that they rallied behind that. And I think that anybody that stuck it through COVID, their communities did the exact same thing.
I departed from what I was going towards, but we went to 19 halos here. And so if we have 19 halos and each of them are 169 square feet, your effective floor utilization is 3,211 square feet on that. And how big is this building in total?
This building in total is 7,000 square feet.
Okay.
6,000 is on the floor.
Yep.
60 by 100. And then 1,000 is upstairs on the mezzanine.
Got it. So 6,000 minus 3,211. So essentially there's 2,789 square feet that's allocated for, you've got this back area over here.
Yep.
So, I mean, realistically, you didn't pick this building for halos. Halos kind of retrofitted and came into this building.
Yep.
As you guys look into the future real estate plays, what is like an ideal physical footprint that allows you to maximize the halos? How many do you recommend from a profitability standpoint? Because currently right now, the cost of a halo is hovering just a hair over $9,000.
Exactly.
Correct? Now, one of my videos, I think you had responded, what the cost was, and someone responded back, and I shot him a DM, and he's like, man, that's so much money. I'm like, you gotta understand, he set these up in the middle of COVID. I don't know if you recall, but fitness equipment was a little bit more expensive during COVID,
right.
And you went to Rogue.
Right.
It's, how do you plan for future franchisees? And we're gonna get into the whole franchise thing you're doing now, but how is it you think of lowering that cost going forward? And because really, it's not a huge footprint you need to have a profitable, and you think 19 might even be a little, you think 16, we talked yesterday, you think 16 halos is the fucking sweet spot.
Yeah.
So even at 16, we're talking, you need a floor space of effectively of 2,700 square feet.
Yep.
And then, an extra 1,000 square feet combined for lean lobby, couple bathrooms, and a little bit of storage in the back.
Exactly.
Something to that degree. It's
totally.
not a huge footprint.
It's not. I think that the ideal is 16 halos, and so that comes out to 2,600 square feet or whatever. Another 2,000 square feet of open gym space, and then another 500-600 square feet of bathrooms, and then you've got the best of both worlds, right? Because at the front of the gym, front of the house, the halos, that's where everybody wants to take their class. That's where they're going to do their core training, their core everything. But there is an element after class that people, or before class, that want to go in the back and work on skills and drills, do their showing off, so to speak, hang out, socialize, and I think that both can exist and they both should exist. And so, we have the mezzanine, which sort of blocks some of our room. If the mezzanine wasn't there, we would have a little bit more open gym space back there, so that people can go back there and do whatever they like, and then people can fob in at any time throughout the day and and not necessarily have to work out in a halo. But during classes, this is where everybody wants to be. It's just like in any gym, everybody does the class workout. They might linger afterwards or come early and do their things and socialize and do all the things that you want them to do. But that would sort of be ideal. I think it's 5,000 square feet. And it's 5,000 to 6,000 square feet, 16 halos, and then a little bit of open gym space, lean lobby, and just a small, closet-style row of bathrooms.
The thing I liked about you have open gym time in here, and the one thing, so I have a lot of gyms doing the hybrid thing, right, where they have group classes and then concurrently have a space dedicated for open gym. And when I'm helping them do some op-cap scenarios and projections as to how big of a space does it need to be, the thing with functional fitness open gym is it's very much the Wild West of how much space will someone take up.
Right.
And I was joking around with you yesterday. I said, man, you've kind of hedged your bets. Worst case scenario, let's say group fitness falls off and everyone in 10 more years is super educated because they've been coming to group fitness and they're all following different programming. You literally could open this place up and it could be pay per workout type, a WeWork type scenario where you fixed the random operational capacity puzzle of a functional fitness open gym by putting everyone, you don't need to travel anywhere. Everything you need is just right there.
Exactly.
I got a gym in New Jersey doing something, and they rent the rack. So they have a rack that they rent, and it has all their shit that they need right there kind of scenario, and they rent it by the hour. I see a lot of cool options with that whole model as far as that goes. Are the majority of the people that come in here that are new, not the ones that you guys kind of reintroduced to this new version with the halos, but people that come in here who are experienced, micro gym customers, and they come in, what is the initial kind of response and whatever it is? Do they look at this and does it click for them immediately? Are they wondering what? Because you walk in and it doesn't look like a normal CrossFit or any kind of other micro gym you've ever seen. What's the learning curve? Do they get it and it's instant oh, this is so great, how smart? Or is it wait, why is it like this?
So it's really funny you say that. So I was just talking earlier about 95% of people that come to a gym, they want a great group experience, and this is even in a traditional CrossFit gym. They want to show up, they want to get a great class, they want to get a great workout, they want it to be consistent, they want to go home. And then 5% of people just want it to be kind of a clusterfuck, and they want to go walk on their hands all across the gym and make messes and do their stuff, and
they don't like to be inhibited or controlled or put in a box at all.
Exactly. And so of all of our drop-ins, everybody that comes in, I'd say 95% of them are this is genius. This is brilliant. We had a drop-in yesterday who's an experienced CrossFitter. She's been doing CrossFit for 10 years in various different gyms. And when I was giving her the tour of the halo, this is your runner, this is your pull-up structure, this is your rower, here's your bench, here's your set of weights, that's your bike, that's your floor space, that's your box. This is your little castle where there is no hassle. She looked at me and I swear to God, she was starting to tear up. She's like, I finally found it. I finally found a place that I can go to where I have all of my own stuff and I can get into my zone. I can get into my rhythm. We can get into the workout. We're not going to have interruption. I'm not going to lose my focus because I have to go here and here or bump into somebody.
Someone grabs my pull-up bar because they thought it wasn't my pull-up bar or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Came in through ClassPass, bought a membership instantly after that. It was just like boom.
Yeah.
And for the 95%, that's their reaction to this system. And the 5%, they walk in, they're like, oh fuck, this.
Yeah. Why?
Why aren't you guys dropping the ropes?
Yeah. Why? I think they feel it's going to impede on the community aspect.
Right.
And from my experience in class yesterday, I mean, you had guys in spot 9 over there, and then he before class he comes over all the way across the gym to spot number 4, and they yuck it up and that kind of thing. Yeah. And I think people feel like being in a spot, you're not going to create community. Go tell that the fucking Soul Cycle where everyone sits on a fucking bike, or a yoga studio. An in-place model is, in my opinion, it is the original group fitness. And if you take it all the way back, because I'm a huge history buff, take it back to Curves. Right. Curves was an in-place model. It was just a bunch of selectorized equipment in a fucking circle that moms and older women would go to. Yeah. And it was like musical chairs. They play a song for a couple minutes, and it was like literally leg extension machine. And then they'd get up and they'd switch, and it'd be a little bicep curl machine and whatever. But that was an in-place model, and there's still community.
Yeah.
The beauty of that model, because they were all in a circle, it was like a bad episode of The View. I mean, The View's already a bad fucking show, but like you just had all these women in a circle just gossiping with each other like they're at the salon, but they're all like moving pin selected equipment while they're doing it. But in here, it was very similar, man. I was, you guys, and I want to know the origin of this. Mm-hmm. At the end of a class, you guys go, okay, with 2 clap, you could do the 2 clap thing, right? Yep. 1, 2, 3, and the 2 claps. And then I went and I was fist bumping people around me. Give me the origin, because that's what in my head that is becomes iconic, and it is a ritual. So the 7 elements of primal branding, that is definitely a ritual you guys have. Where did it come from, and why do you do that at the conclusion of a class? Yeah,
so we have always been big high fivers at Industrious, from the early onset. I mean, everybody, it was a rule. If you came in, you got a high five.
Yeah.
And it was a high five, and it was I'm happy to see you. Let's fucking get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then COVID shows up, and then now it's like nobody can touch each other. So we lost that ritual.
Yeah.
We lost one of the things that was really connecting us, which was that physical contact, and that I'm excited to see you, you're excited to see me, let's go get it. And let's do this together. And it was gone. And so how could we recreate that in the aggregate? It was, we had to get creative. Yeah. And so we started doing, 2 claps, and 1 for you and 1 for everybody else, or 1 for you, 1 for the drop in. Sometimes we do 3 claps because we got 2 drop-ins, 1 for Timmy, 1 for Sammy, 1 for you, boom, boom. And it's just a great way to put an exclamation point on a great class. And it's the end of class, and that's where you start, like you noticed yesterday in class, we were all focused during the workout.
Yeah.
Like when we were going, we weren't saying it, like we were all going, and it was a hard workout, and we got done, and those 2 claps happened, and then 30 seconds later, you're in my halo high five, and you're over to that I'm all the way up in the front of the gym high fiving people. And that's sort of where we end the sweaty part, and then we go right into the community building or the socializing part. And I went around, I talked to everybody in their halos. What are you doing this weekend? And in that, having a barbecue on my rooftop. Want to come? I mean,
so that 10-minute buffer gives you,
exactly,
right? It gives you business opportunity. That coach can go talk to the prospect or the new person coming in or whatever it is. Yeah. But it allows you to do that. For anyone listening, I just cannot recommend enough. Like, you don't need to do if you're afraid you're not going to fit all your shit in, you're probably doing too much shit. That 10-minute buffer is such an operational, a coach, like giving coaches time to kind of wind down for a second or pass off the mic to the next guy kind of scenario. Highly recommend it. You don't need 60 minutes of the entire thing. We did a 30-minute actual workout. We did 30 consecutive minutes of actual work in a 50-minute window, and it was great. It worked out phenomenally. I thought it was a very well-run class. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I want to get into I got on my little list here. I want to get into some of the franchise stuff. This is, when I had you on the podcast, we just did that Zoom one. That's when you had just recently announced it. You've now recently announced that you have 2 franchises opening up. They'll be in sub-markets of Seattle here, correct?
Yep,
okay,
exactly.
So where will the 2 locations be here?
Yep, so one is going to be in the Bellevue market, which is on the east side of Seattle, on the other side of Lake Washington. And then the other one's going to be in West Seattle. Okay. And that's a peninsula that that kind of wraps around on the other side of Elliott Bay.
Yep.
So yeah, we're
now is that so? A lot of companies when they're looking to start franchising, some of them like, all right, well, cost wise and practicality wise, it makes sense for me to just kind of splinter out and show a multi-unit market, right? So when I'm showing other potential franchisee applicants, check it out. If you take this to your city where we have 0 industrious and you purchase these territories, like this is what a multi-unit model would look like. Is obviously as the franchisor, you'd love for people to buy multi-packs of locations. Now your 2 additional franchisees also came from within house. They were established employees and people who helped build the Industrious brand with you.
Yes.
And you were now able to create an ascension opportunity for them, which most single mom and pop locations can't do. It's like you're going to become the GM and then maybe you buy it from me one day. Like that's literally the only option that really exists.
right.
So talk to me about that. You guys, you hit the market and then you had 2 people in house show interest, or they came to you, you went to them. Talk to me about the whole thing.
I wholeheartly agree with you. People, what makes them work, what really makes them be their best is when there's something to work for and towards, right? And so, having roles within an organization that are a level up are engaging, right? Most people want to move up in an organization, but you're right. In the context of, a mom and pop gym, which is, that's what Molly and I are, you know, it's very tough to continue to create enough opportunities that are going to keep really great people there. And so, franchising, the more and more that I considered it and thought about it, is this the right decision? Should we just continue to open up more corporate stores, and hire a GM and a few employees for that location? It started wearing on me. And this actually goes back to, an old Glassman said this, is that, the owner operator, that is basically the way that you succeed in fitness. The owner has to be there operating the gym. From a unit economic standpoint, when it was funny because when we were modeling out what it looks like for a franchisee, the owner operator model, I looked at Jeremy and I was like, oh my gosh, the most lucrative role in this entire organization as we're building it is a franchisee. They will make so much money.
And real quick for everyone, who's Jeremy?
Jeremy's our chief operating officer.
Got it. He's also one of your new franchisees as well.
Exactly. He's our first franchisee. So he's been helping me and Molly build Industrious, from the ground up over the years. He was our first full-time employee back in 2013.
Okay.
And so he's just leveled up with our company. He was our first gym manager up in Linwood. And then when we opened up South Lake Union here, he was our first gym manager here. And then, it was, hey, Jared, do you want to run both locations now and run the operations? And he's been there every step of the way. And so back in December, he came up to me and it's a funny story. He says, can I meet with you tomorrow over FaceTime? I need to talk to you about something. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, he's zipping out. He's a flight risk now. He's leaving. Something's going on. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a long night. And so the next day we meet and he says, I've been doing a lot of soul searching. I've been talking to Aaliyah, who's his wife, and she's amazing. They met here on the floor at the gym.
Okay.
And she was a coach on our staff as well, and says, I want to be the first franchisee. He said, I'm ready to spread my wings. And, there is an old saying that is, if you have a really, really good man and you let him go, he'll really fly.
Yeah.
And I think with Jeremy, it is that. And with Brett, who's our second franchisee, he's the gym manager here in South Lake Union. He's really going to fly because they are already super high performers on our floor. Think of when they get all of the upside.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're really going to see, their stuff, and they're already impressive, wonderful, super smart, beautiful people, huge hearts, hard workers. They'll work till their feet are, just bleeding. Now we really, really get to see the next level up of them.
And so what's nice about when a franchise model has people from staff step into ownership, owning their own franchise, the beauty of that is the culture is there because everyone else is you're doing it. If it's an applicant from, someone listens to this and they reach out to you, it's going to be a stranger applicant. You got to do the credit check, the background check, make sure they haven't fucking, touched little boys, whatever. You got to make sure their core values match. You got to make sure that their current gym isn't a fucking shit show financially. Like there's so much vetting that happens. And even then, someone can look really good on paper and they get into the franchise system. It's like, fuck, we made the wrong move, or we accepted, and I mean, everyone listening to this can relate to on the HR side. We have all hired someone we thought was a really good candidate for a job and it didn't work out. But now they own your brand and they're afraid. I mean, it's a much tighter thing.
Right.
But with these guys, it's great. And because of their track record here in the managerial roles, I would feel very confident as a young franchise that my first 2 locations are going to show great numbers because these guys are fucking, I mean, they're top. They're top. They get it. And I mean, fuck, you might even have to like put a disclaimer when you're showing a future franchisee, be like, hey, listen, look, these guys hit their 15 to 20% profitability numbers twice as fast as you probably will, just because they came out, they are born out of this thing, right? Now, the problem with that is, and you and me were texting about this, now it's not a problem, but now you're taking your top employees. And now you got to next man up, right? Your bench had better be ready. So internally as HR, now you're looking at a huge problem. I've got my 2 aces are leaving in-house. Now I have to develop aces behind them. Yeah. How's your bench look right now? Do you have people ready to step in that role? Is that something you're looking to develop, or you have to hire and acquire?
Yeah. So we're super deep with the team. So, we have nearly 40 employees total between
2 locations.
Yep, exactly. Between full-timers and part-timers. Now, I totally agree. That's the thing is like, oh man, our absolute rock stars are not going to be working for our 2 gyms that we already have. And, so they're leveling up. That's the way I see it. And they're sort of leading by example. They're taking their role that they learned and developed here on our floors with us and through, Molly and I's mentorship, and they're going out and spreading their wings. And I love that because it's an opportunity for everybody else that works here to level up and come up behind them. So we create this really healthy flow, in my opinion. That guy's killing it. My boss's boss is killing it. Oh, he's moving on. He's opening up his own, gyms. And, now it's an opportunity for me to maybe come up and take his spot. And, I've always joked with our employees before in the past is the best way to get promoted is get your boss promoted.
100%. Yeah.
And I think that for whatever reason, people don't have that in their head. So they're like, oh, my boss is a dick or whatever.
Or they're never going to leave.
Right.
And so there's no vertical momentum for me in this company.
Exactly. And so, I view it as healthy. And yeah, it's a lot of work to get somebody back up to their levels. I mean, it took years, but that's where my passion lies, so I lean into that type of work. Everything I do here is all towards the people development side, whether it's, on the floor and coaching, customers to move better, give them a better class experience or motivate them more. It's also with coaches and teaching them the craft of how to be successful in this context. But it goes beyond that. It's, when I'm working with our staff, it's not just about like coaching the class. I'm getting into them about things, my background with my education is all in organizational leadership and how to lead complex and nebulous organizations that are really, really tough in how to look through these different lenses. And I'm always in their ears because the easy part is coaching the classes. When you're talking about leadership roles in your company, in your gyms, you have to develop leaders. You have to teach people how to be great empathizers, and you have to teach people how to, be great coaches of other people. And, so I'm excited for the next, 2 to sort of come up. I'm excited to get into their leadership strengths and their leadership weaknesses or opportunities and start developing them and round them in because by the time I'm done with them, this should be clear as day in their head. I don't need to be under Steven anymore. I can go out and I can spread my wings, fly the industrious flag, and I'm going to fucking kill it. And we're all still in the family. And, I think that that was the thing that always, was destructive to a lot of CrossFit gyms in the earlier days is that affiliate was going. And then, one of the stud athletes or whatever who was popular, had a lot of referent power amongst the community, said, I can do this better. And then they opened up, right down the street, and they weren't in the same family anymore. And so it became this constant, CrossFit was growing, the tribes were growing. And I think that all that stuff was good, but it reached a point where it started to eat itself, I think, in an unhealthy way. And it created, too much just competition. And
is that gym still around?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Very, there's a lot of cautionary tales that end like that. I was guessing that was probably the answer.
Yeah. And so this gives, it gives our team an opportunity to continue to work together, but at the same time, be the entrepreneurs that we all want to be, that we all, sort of crave. And, it's really exciting for me.
I had a guy, we were on a couple calls, and very similar. He's got some staff that moved up. They were in upper management. They were doing very well. He did not have a progression. He did not have anywhere for them to go. And they eventually left. And his thing at that point was like, fuck, now I've got to develop the next group. And for any gym owner listening to this, you've had that moment. It's like, oh my God, I had a great coach. And then their husband got a job in San Francisco. So I got to develop another coach. I'm like, here's the deal. A sophisticated business, the number one issue they should have is HR based. A sophisticated business does not still have, well, I don't know how to market and have a client acquisition system. Like, you are going to refine this Halo thing. In 3 years, when you and me are talking and hanging out, you're going to be like, bro, I found an additional way to save 15 square feet per Halo. Like, you're going to have a much more sophisticated version, but you embrace the HR challenge that every sophisticated business is going to have. HR should be the biggest bane of your existence for a successful company. Human beings are fickle. Human beings are vast. They have different goals, and those goals are ever changing. If you think like, man, I have to develop somebody, you should like to develop somebody. Because the other stuff in the business, it's not like a set it and forget it, but it is like, you've got your Halo model, and while you will evolve it, you're not having to labor over it every day. You and me went over your entire client acquisition system and your marketing, internal and external, over dinner last night. You have that fucking dialed down. Like, the two, and we'll talk about, but like your 2 annual sales strategies throughout the year, like, you have that figured out. So what the other thing for you to do is to constantly develop people, because I don't know if you realize this, fuckers, but like, this is a people business, not only in your customer base, but in the employee base. Right. That's the thing that has to constantly be developed, because people are it's going to be the highest turnover. You think about, I always joke around, like, fuck the retention of your customers, compared to the retention of an employee. Yes. I don't care how many members you have. I don't care what your profit margin is. Tell me, who is your longest tenured employee? How many years have they been with you? Okay. Right. What do they make? I would just tell me those 2 things, and I can guess and probably land in the ballpark of those other metrics. Right. So from a development perspective, let's talk a little bit about, you gave me something that I haven't heard anyone, and that's the thing with your branding. You come up with your own way to do stuff that I have not heard before. Would you share with us, you guys kind of have your triage, you always see, like in CrossFit, you go to the level 2 or whatever, they tell you how to triage. You have your own version, and it begins with them scanning the room and looking for confusion. Yes. Can you talk about that? Because I just thought this was so cool. Yeah, totally. So, when all these Halos are full of 2 people on a Monday or a Tuesday night, and you got 38 people in the room, it's a lot. For coaches, oftentimes they don't know where to look or why first or when. I mean, there's just so much happening. And so we break it down for them. And, so they go through their checklist in their head of where to go to first and why. And the first one is they're always scanning for confusion. Any type of confused body language that they see, they're supposed to be on that right now. Don't wait, go there right now. Confusion above all else. And the reason that is because somebody that's confused is having a bad experience. Think about it. Whenever you're confused, it leads to frustration very quickly. And so there's that. And then the other thing that confusion does is they're probably leaning into their partner in their Halo or somebody else, and they're ruining the experience for another person as well. So we got to get there, and we got to get it addressed now. So it's confusion first. The second thing that we look for is somebody that's about ready to hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. So we're looking for dangerous movement or accidents waiting to happen. So as we're walking up and down, through the Halos, we're looking for foam rollers that might be left out, a bag or a phone that's about ready to get broken. And we're just on that stuff. And then we're looking for somebody that just, needs a spot, as an example. And we're going to that. So it's confusion first, it's dangerous movement second. Then we go to the new person, because nascent movement, if you're a new mover, you're not going to dislodge your spinal cord if your back is a little rounded, or if you have some, just newer movement patterns, right? You're trying to figure it out. But we want to get to confusion and dangerous shit first, and then let's get to the new mover.
and work with them on, that. And then once we've addressed new movers, then let's go to advanced movers and let's give them the advanced technical cue of like, get your wrist through a little bit more on that snatch and you'll stand that up.
Yeah.
And so that's the
order of operations for you guys.
Exactly. And we have those we run them through those decision waterfalls on all kinds of different things, in the gym as it relates to tours. So as an example, somebody might come in 10 minutes before class and then we can give them the grand tour of the gym, right? And that's the ideal. And we go through, we have the ideal tour that we always want to try to give and show them all the bells and whistles and show them, and at the end of that tour, everybody's like, holy shit, this is the nicest fucking gym I've ever been in. But sometimes they walk in 1 minute before class and you don't have that luxury of giving them that tour. It's just like, go to number 19, I'll be right there and follow along. And then all that we can do is give them the tour of the halo and say, this is yours, follow along. It's going to be confusing a little bit, but don't worry, we're going to be right in your halo to clear it up, but just follow along, have a good time. And boom, we can go. And that person doesn't ruin it for everybody else. They don't frustrate the coach because it's just get there, follow along.
Do you guys have projected like what a realistic or the best timing of an exit would look like? So getting a franchise to profitability by, let's say, year 2 at a 20%, 15 to 20% margin. And then is it like, I've seen these numbers in Orange Theory where it's like around year 7 is where you probably want to exit, year 6 maybe. After that, it's not that we think this ship is sinking, but you have much higher volatility and less likely to get top dollar for the business at that point. Have you guys played around with like projections of the timing of someone's exit for something like this? Because you're going to get a lot of we'll talk about like the avatar franchisee. You're eventually, if you get big enough, you're going to get the guys that franchise 6 massage envies and 4 froyos and 3 Orange Theories, and it's a co-op of 7 doctors, and that's their retirement play, or these franchise models that they put money in.
Sure.
But those guys are going to ask those questions because they're not going to be owner operators. Right. And I'm not sure whether that's an avatar franchise you would entertain or you'd want, or whether you want owner operators, but at some point you have X amount of these, and those kind of groups come to you that are looking to just be cash in franchisees, hire the staff, and they want to know when's my predictable exit? When do you think's the best year? How many years in? Have you guys played around with that yet?
Not too much, but from looking at it, from what those milestones are, I do think it's about 10 years, 5 to 10 years. We do a pro forma out to 5 years, and at the end of that, we know that if established franchise systems, they sell it, or they're usually valued at somewhere right around 10 times EBITDA in an established, well-known franchise system. I think that it's exitable at about the 3-year mark, but it's a 10-year franchise deal. I say run it through.
Is there a prepayment penalty? Like, can you exit early and you have to pay a penalty if you do so?
Yeah. So you can. So with our franchise agreement, there is a prepayment exit strategy, but it is it's a penalty.
Sure.
And then if you transfer it, it's a few $1,000s to transfer it to somebody else.
Got it. And that the new transfer has to go through the same credit. You just got to go through the same checklist. You have to approve the transfer, the whole deal kind of scenario.
Yep.
Like let's go and talk about the avatar. So you and me were talking yesterday, and I was saying I really see your guys' big opportunity here are current micro gym owners that have a successful location and they want to add to their portfolio.
Yep.
I also believe there's going to be a lot of gym owners who currently have a location. Let's say we're only going to want the ones that are maybe they're successful on paper, but they're a CrossFit affiliate. And if they had the know-how and if they could create their own brand and their own image and their own model and come up with something unique, they would have already. They don't necessarily want to stay with CrossFit, but it's like kind of what they established. Mm-hmm. It's what the membership base wants. For them to go like to do what I did with like CrossFit South End to Urban Movement, for them would be financial suicide. Right. But they would love to throw another flag up as long as the clients still got what they wanted. And because you guys have proven we're no longer a CrossFit affiliate, but we didn't lose anyone, asterisk. We had the Glassman thing and a very more quote unquote maybe woke membership base that fucking hated that whole thing. It was very, you told me your inbox filled up with people that day. Like, man. We're out. we're not associated with CrossFit anymore. So it was an easier transition. But I think even that aside, like I took this class and if someone asked me, what are you doing inside of an industrious? I'm like, well, it's essentially constantly varied functional movements at high intensity, right? Yeah. It's got its own, unique way of programming, which every gym kind of does. But at the end of the day, if I'm a CrossFitter, I'd be totally happy with this programming product, right? Yeah. I'd be very happy with it. You even said you have guys here that, they do the open and they, you have your Halo games, your own version of the open here, but they also do CrossFit competitions and that whole deal. I think there's gonna be a lot of gyms that really would love the idea to retrofit it. Be like, all right, I'm CrossFit fucking East. Yeah. And God damn it, it's like, I don't want to be CrossFit East anymore. I don't know what else I'd do. And they come here on a discovery day or something and they see this and like, fuck, this makes so much more sense. I like it. And I've been doing this 7 years. I'm tired of thinking it up myself. I'm tired of enrolling in Two Brain and calling Stu and getting into affiliate university. And like, I just want someone tells me exactly what to do to make the money here and enjoy it. And I still believe in CrossFit. I still like this thing. I'm good with de-affiliating, right? I'm good with dropping it as long as my members still like the fitness product on the floor and they don't leave. And when you had that conversation, I couldn't tell whether that group of potential franchisees had really rolled around in your head yet, like the retrofitting, because it doesn't cost them nearly as much as a new franchisee who's got to find new real estate.
Yeah, it was sort of rolling in my head, but it's starting to become much more obvious that that's where it's going to go. I think that there are people that are considering, the first few are going to come from within, because what really creates the buy-in in this system is seeing this thing live. Yeah. I mean, you see it live once or twice, you're like, oh man, this is sweet. And you mix in the people and you see the rotations and, the on-the-minute lifting and that everybody's facing the same way. And, just what it looks like when everybody's like sprinting on those treadmills and then they come on out and, hit barbell sets.
You ever watch a band like Ohio State do the script eye across the field? Like there is something with organization and timing and symmetrical things happening in the gym that just are so satisfying, not only to the owner who might be OCD, like I think you and me are a little when it comes to this stuff, but to the clients as well. And then you have incredible street view. Like you and me are sitting here using this gorgeous natural light you have from the windows, and people walk by when they see that nice, consistent, everyone kind of doing the same thing. It's why I like Tempo. It's why Orange Theory had the model they had. It's an easy story to tell from a window when someone's just looking through the window and look at it. It makes sense versus the chickens with their head cut off running all over the place.
It totally does. And it looks so neat and it's so attractive. And there's an element of art to it. It's beauty, because we look at programming of, we need to write really, really effective workouts, but we need to also consider the rotations and what it looks like to move through almost from a spectator and an athlete perspective. Let's look at it through the lens of looking at it through the windows as a new customer. What is that? Let's program for that. But at the same time, let's program for what it feels like in the halo. And then let's also program for what it feels like to coach it. And I think that that's the main thing for a lot of, coaches is this system, it makes it so fun and so easy to coach because all of the hard pin, like the stuff that drives you crazy as a coach, the stuff that's always on like, your stuff and like make WODs great again. And all those things about the stuff that drives the coach crazy. It's gone. And so we can really, get down to the fun stuff, which is watching the system go. I mean, it is so fun. I do think that people are attracted to that. It's part of an experience. It's a pack mentality. We're moving together. 3, 2, 1, lift, go. You're not going to go on that tempo with that much discipline by yourself in the gym. You might lift every 2 minutes and 40 seconds, sure, but you're not going to do it at the 2-minute mark or at the 3-minute mark, or whatever the interval is. And, it is special and it's unique to the point where our customers that are on our floor, they don't oftentimes know because they don't have any contrast. We're the only gym that they've ever been in because we're the only gym that was actually attractive enough for them to walk into that does this type of training. And they'll go somewhere on travels or whatever. They'll walk into another gym and they say that it is really, really painful. And then, on the flip side of that, people that come from other CrossFit gyms, they're like, holy shit, this is impressive. This is something unique. And, there are, like I said, 95% of people have that very enthusiastic, this is brilliance reaction to it. And then there's 5% that want that raw, authentic CrossFit affiliate, and they're out there and go get them.
So if someone's listening, and again, they've got a thing, they've been established, but again, it's loosely being held on. They would love to be a part of a bigger, faster growing thing, and they'd love for a fucking brand and a playbook that has a proof of concept. Essentially, for 20,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
20. Okay, so for 20,000, yeah, 20,000. You could essentially rebrand your business as Industrious, and then figuring out the equipment layout for your, because you probably have some equipment, you could probably liquidate, swap out, do whatever. You could essentially then have a completely different model, which I do. I truly believe. Like, you gotta, if you're fucking going traveling anywhere, come out to Seattle and just imagine you've been to a standard CrossFit gym. And then walk in here and then get your own spot with all your own equipment. You never have to worry about shit. Like, it's every gym that's listening is like, we have 4 rowers and we have 9 bikes and 12 of this. So this workout, if you can't find a bike, go grab that one. If you can't find a set of rings, go over that. Like, it's nice having all your own fucking toys right there. So I see you guys closing experienced CrossFitters who come in here and are like, oh, this is great. The majority, you're right. There's that 5% that are going to want like the chicken with their head cut off, loosey-goosey kind of scenario. But for the owners that come in here, I really think the retrofitting is such a great opportunity for a gym who wants to just walk into their market. Like, if I was at, let's say, Charlotte, North Carolina, at one time I think we had like 30 some CrossFit gyms in the greater Charlotte area. I think we're down to like 6.
Wow.
Yeah. But at one time, there would have been an Industrious there, I would have I would have been able to kick everybody in the dick. I would have set this up like when I had CrossFit South End, could have just kicked everybody in the dick. There would have been it would have been game fucking over.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been. I know from our old system, that was a traditional CrossFit system, to this system. This was always in my head of, oh my God, if somebody does this, and granted at the time I didn't know exactly what it was, but if somebody figures out the algorithm and opens up next to me, I'm in deep shit. So I need to figure out a way to we need to do it ourselves. And if this did open up in a new market, it would be disruptive. Knowing what it's like to run a traditional CrossFit gym versus this would be very challenging to try to compete with. It's too attractive to too many more people. And even if you're just like you get after it, right? And you're a really fit dude, as an example, and you compete and you do all that stuff, you love this system because you get a really, really good workout in that doesn't allow you to be disrupted. And you can do your own thing. You can level up or scale up in this. And then if you're new to this, you feel just fine going with the technique bar and some light bumper plates and just working on the skills. And nobody feels like they're getting in the way of the class, or nobody feels like they're the one in the class that cannot do it. And that is the biggest barrier. And people are generally supportive in gyms. And I know what people are probably saying right now as they're listening. They're like, but my gym, we all support each other. I'm like, yes, I know. And people are good, nice people. And we do support. We want to make people feel welcome. But oftentimes it's hard with a new person in class, even if you are very supportive, to try to make them feel like they're still able to do it. And, they might be like, everybody was really nice, but it just wasn't for me.
Sure.
And, with this system, people come in off of the street and they're like, wow, I was a little intimidated walking in here because look at this thing. But now that I'm in here, the only thing I regret is not coming in here sooner, because I can do it. Anybody can do it. And the programming is set up for success.
There was, and I was thinking about this. I was like, do I actually want to say the name of the gym, or do I? But I think this is a great example because I know what people are thinking right now. So a gym tags me today after I, made a post showing some stuff off that you guys have. And I'm going to get their fucking, it's like MYO. It's like CrossFit MYO or some shit like that. And I looked, and they obviously kept their squares from COVID. Oh. And they have different, like, their squat racks. But that's the thing, is I want people to realize, like, because there are people, you and me talked about this, like, okay, so what's stopping somebody from going to Fringe Sports or True Grit or Rogue and creating their own in-place model, right? What's stopping someone from doing that? We'll talk about the patent here in a second, but like, nothing's technically stopping you from doing this whole thing. But it's not just that. Just like anybody could steal Metabolic's 5 exercises per lane, with a bag. That is one element of the recipe. It's everything from the lighting package in here, which is just absolutely incredible. Everything from, the way you have stuff figured out, and also the brand. Like the Industrious brand, I wouldn't say the Industrious brand is overly aggressive. It's also not very soft. Like I was reading the copy on your website on the way over here, right? Like when you go, there's a page I think it's on the scheduling page, and it's like, no bullshit workouts or something like that. So you guys have there's a little edge, but it's not so over the top like like Metabolic might be, or a WTF Gym Talk. Like it's not super aggressive that I think could be problematic from a client acquisition standpoint, but it's also, you guys are very firm in your confidence in who you are as a brand here.
Yeah.
Like when people are like, oh, well, I could just do this. No, you fucking couldn't. If that was the case, then why didn't you just get treadmills and rowers and TRX bands and do what Orange Theory did? Or then why haven't you done it yet? If you're like, oh, I could copy that and be successful. If you haven't been able to be successful on your own fucking thing now, currently, you think copying and watching from behind someone else's fucking thing is going, it's like copying the test on somebody. You might copy the answers, but you walk out of that room and you don't know what the fuck to do. Yeah. You have no fucking clue what to do with this. And the second, because if you're on version 1.0 of the Halos and this model, what are you going to do when Steven's, already made his mind up on what 2.0 looks like, and you're just gonna have to fucking wait for the fucking Instagram photos to be like, oh, I think he's doing something different. What's he doing? Fuck, let me get my sister who lives in Seattle to take some classes so I can fucking get the secret sauce. It blows me away when people think your success here is like, oh, in place, I could totally do that. 169 square feet, I can make that. You don't fucking stand a chance. And that gym that tagged me in that, it looked nice. If you moved in next to them and you both have an in-place model, you'd shit in their mouth. It's just that's how it would go. You drop the big dick on them because this is just every angle is put together so well. That's what a brand is. Mm-hmm. It's 100 different components that fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. So when someone walks in, it goes, it's the strategic sales opportunity. You have a Lululemon, the phenomenal fucking retail that you have. The decor in the bathrooms and the fucking black tiles that just match, and everything in here looks like a legit interior designer came in and said, do it like this. Mm-hmm. And, like you told me, you're like, I've probably spent $4 million over a decade figuring shit out.
Yeah.
And it just blows me away because sure, someone could steal an in-place model from you, but fuck, that's not the genius of this thing. No. You doing it to the degree that you have. No one has stood up this except for the guys that maybe have seen you now or post-COVID just kept it because members liked it better, but they didn't design it like this. And you're the math behind it and the unit economics of a Halo, taking the time to brand the Halo, taking the time to create the Halo games. That is this huge version of the CrossFit Open. It is a celebration of fitness. So anyone listening as you're listening to this podcast, you're Googling and looking at images of this place and oh, I could do that. Trust me, the success with this is not just this 169 square feet. Right. That's not it. That number might change over time, right? It's all the other fucking variables of it. But on the other side of this, anyone who is considering retrofitting into that, what would you say to someone who wanted to hit you up and explain kind of that scenario? I don't know what I've been wanting to do. I don't like what we are now. Mm-hmm. I like what we do, but I know we could do it better. I think you do it better. I'd rather pay and be a part of this brand and this movement. What would a conversation with that kind of person go?
Totally. So the first thing I would say is tell me about your footprint and tell me about the neighborhood that you're serving or the area that you're serving.
Ooh, which markets do you not like for an Industrious?
We're probably not going to perform very well in an urban setting. Or I'm sorry, in a suburban. Suburban we do pretty good.
Okay, you mean rural? Okay.
I do think that, it's just not going to perform as well out there. We've proven that we do very good, 22 members per Halo in a suburban environment. 15 minutes north of downtown Seattle. That's where our suburban gym is.
The Linwood.
And we've proven that we do really well in an urban environment, which is this location. What Industrious attracts is predominantly 25 to 45-year-olds. So we want a lot of them close. The more 25 to 45-year-olds that we have within a 10-minute radius, the better. And so I would look at that with them and say, how many do we have? And then what we can do is we can reverse engineer the math based off of what we have here. So if we have 100,000 within 10 minutes of this unit, but you only have 75,000 of those age demographics, the people that fit and income and all the other stuff, then what we need to do is we need to reverse engineer the math, say you're going to do 75% of what this volume is. how does that ultimately pencil out? Now we have to look at your floor plan. So what is the market that you're currently in right now with your current brick and mortar? Then once we've vetted that, we say, okay, now we need to make it pencil with how much square footage you have. Well, we only have 2,500 square feet. That's probably, what if the math doesn't add up? Because we've got the unit economics per halo. We can look at in that 2,500 square foot sliver, that's 8 halos. The math isn't going to add up to what you're actually going to do on the top line. So that brick and mortar, we need to move on from it. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be it's not going to be a conversion. It's not going to be a retrofit. So go find another building and reopen as industrious. Mm-hmm. That would be my conversation if you want to do it. And maybe even keep your current gym for the people that like it.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest thing I said I always fucked up. If I was able to stay in my location, we were getting kicked out of my previous one, I would have kept CrossFit South End open and just opened up Urban Movement and hedged my bets. I would have never transferred it over. It was a nature of having to versus wanting to. But I think that's a great fucking technical point there. Yep. Hey, can we talk about the demographics real quick on that? I've heard Sean Pastuch mimics my sentiment on that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people like to talk about their demographics and their avatar. And I generally tell them like 25 to 45 is the demographic. That's ultimately like when it's all said and done, that's the average of who uses your service. When I think of demographics is we solve this problem for this kind of person with the problem. Now that person could end up, you could have a 52-year-old in here who fits, you solve this kind of problem for them. Their problem is, I like CrossFit and barbell-based strength and conditioning. I didn't like the setting it was in at these other gyms, or I didn't like the vibe, and this is very professionally run. I didn't like coaches who screamed across the floor. I like that you guys use the mic system. Would you think about it like that? If we were to say, what kind of problem does someone have in which Industrious solves? Or how would you think of it from that perspective?
Yeah, I love that. So what this is, the genius behind this is around the empathy on what it is that people love about CrossFit and what it is about what they hate about CrossFit. And that's truly what guided the thinking into this. And, so as people come into this system, what they're seeing is that I can do power cleans and front squats and back squats and deadlifts, and I can run and I can do power snatch and, I can do toes to bar and I can do bar muscle ups. I can do all these cool things that I enjoy doing, but I don't at the same time have to do the crazy, silly bullshit stuff like flipping tires out in the parking lot and walking on my hands across the room and, doing crazy gymnastics inversions and, doing in an environment that just looks like sketchy, right? It's all the stuff that I love about doing CrossFit, but it's none of the stuff that I hate about doing CrossFit. And it was all the same stuff when I'd walk into, CrossFit affiliates early on. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awkward, right? It's awkward to be standing here. We're all trying to get like in the mood to work out and we're going around the circle doing an icebreaker and stuff. And it's not that stuff, it doesn't have a place in building, bonds and friendships and stuff like that. It's just what we wanted to do is we wanted to eliminate. Oh, that's why we say no bullshit. So we want to eliminate all of the silly bullshit and that's why we are a little edgy. But we're not over the top. It's just we're just professional. We're respectful. We want to get you in here, get down to business, get it done. Respect your time. Respect my time. Respect that the people that make this place go are working their ass off 24/7, and the people that come in here want to work hard. Like, it's cultural. I think that for us, it was, earlier on, I was more of a competitive athlete. I'd competed at regionals and did all that stuff. And I had a blast, and I did it for 7 years. I was a good athlete. But over time, my values and what I was looking for in an effective training session, they changed. And I will say at that time, I was a little bit more on the crazy CrossFitter side. And over time, I centered up and it made it very crystal clear of what the normal average person is looking for when they come in. And it's this, and it wasn't the old system. And the old system was cool. We did a great job with the old system. I like to think we did it better than anybody. And we were very successful with it, and it led to this. But that iteration, if Industrious 1, the tiny little box that we opened up into Industrious 2, which was Olympic weightlifting platforms. Everybody's going through them in a system on the half hour. Boom. 4 o'clock class, you squat, 4:30 squad, you come in behind them, you squat, and then the 4 o'clock class, go to the other side, and you're doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
And so we were the first to create that type of flow, and that was a great system. And then, but that led to this system, which is how can we make that system even better? Because we lost 20 minutes of getting from the platform over to the other side and reorganizing the room. And again, it's all pick a spot.
It was segmented experiences. Like, people weren't experiencing it at the same time.
Exactly. The thinking behind this comes from all of the time on the floor trying to solve the problem for the customer, and then trying to solve the problem for you as the coach, and then trying to solve the problem for the business. And all three of those things have to level up together, or it's just a broken, non-sustainable system. It was all of that just fucking trying to figure it out that has led to this.
I just look at everything, when, was their name Lynn, what the fuck is the Orange Theory founder's name? I want to say Lynn. I'm getting that wrong. But anyway, when Orange Theory was founded, smart money looked at the rise of CrossFit and was like, oh, well, we can do that just cleaner, more organized, more sophisticated. We could target a very specific avatar customer, right? Female, be starter fitness base, the running community. Even though the Concept 2 rower is a perfect piece of equipment, we can make it look more inviting with our nice orange bubble rower. Like, they just kind of broke down that whole thing. Everything evolves over time. So when I get to talk to a gym owner who's bypassed the decade of being a CrossFit affiliate, it's always like, I'm always, congratulations. Like, that's a huge milestone. A lot of your brethren didn't fucking make it, right? I'm like, how much different is it what you do now versus then? And they'll have like, a lot of the things that have evolved have been systems and, business based stuff. But the class product is generally still they still walk up to the fucking whiteboard that's still like, it's dirty. It's just like, because whiteboards have like this like life cycle where they're like really white and pretty for like 2 years, and then they get dingy, like fucking tannish. It's just like, I'm like, let me guess, every class begins with all right, everyone gather up to the whiteboard. And like a coach who's really on their shit and wants to have a fucking 10-minute monologue, like it's open mic night, and he's like, instead of comedy, he's fucking just talking about how much he knows of this shit. Like, how has your thing not evolved in in this period of time? Like, how have you not had to evolve that? Even that's one of my biggest gripes of CrossFit. Right. They haven't admitted to needing to evolve to certain things. Like, I think it's still insane that CrossFit doesn't talk about tempo and time under tension at all in there. Like, I think CrossFit's the best practical application certification you can go to. I do believe it's the best 2-day thing you can go to. I still just think it's saying it's something like every other modifiable variable is talked about, sets, reps, whatever, but time under tension is not. It's still speed over everything. It's fast or it's nothing, right? Yeah. So I look at just the lack of sophistication, or like willing to change, because it's not like they don't know that this exists. And if you have conversations with a lot of people that are high up over there, they admit that's a thing. And someone tagged me in a video. They're calling things now, I don't know if it's the level 1 yell, but there's like threshold speed, which is move really fast, and they have names now for like slower speeds. Oh, interesting. So yeah, I don't know if that's liquidated its way down to the level 1. I'm here for it. I'd be happy to see it. When we think of like a gym that has not changed and evolved their model, because that's all you were just talking about. You're just talking about like the constant evolution of making things better. So how does Industrious in the next 10 years, how do you think of the continual evolution? Like, if you had to predict the changes that would maybe come based on the market as you see it as a whole, or just things that you currently know, this is an A+ to everyone else, but I know it's a fucking C-. Like, it's not that fucking great yet. What do you see in a 10-year window as a way to stay relevant and continuously evolving? Yeah. So for the way that I see it is, the halos are the way that they are right now, just like the Model T automobile was the way that it was when it was developed. And it's still a car. It's got an engine. It's got 4 wheels. It was black, and the car hasn't changed that much, right? But all of the systems, the experience of driving a car has changed a lot, and I see the Halo is the way.
It just is. This ideology, this methodology, it works.
So you're saying the in-place model, you truly believe, is the most efficient way to run a group fitness facility?
100%. Now, I do think that there's value to having other areas of the gym that serve different purpose, like having a little area in the back that is open, more of an open floor plan with great equipment around that has stuff that people can go and do accessory work or hang out in the back, or you can have, stretching classes or whatever you want to do back there. But I think that does add value. For me, it's not about let's give people a place to go work out. Yes, but it's more of a place for people to go, spend more time together and increase their social capital.
Also, a model like this, people got to understand, when you're as lean with the square footage as Steven is, or even some of the smaller facilities Orange Theory does, it's what we call a bullpen. So the bullpen is where the people for the next class are all gathering.
Right.
And in Orange Theory, it's in the lobby. Like if you are brand new to Orange Theory and you show up that's why they want you there. You have to be there. If you want to try an Orange Theory class, you have to arrive 15 minutes early. If you don't get there 15 minutes early, they will not allow you to attend. It's just, you show up and there's fucking 30 some people standing in the lobby, and the intimidation level's high. It sets for a bad client experience.
Right.
But yeah, like that area, when I was here and the coach was giving me a tour on the first day, he's like, this is kind of where everyone hangs them out. Oh, this is your bullpen. He goes, oh yeah, it's exactly kind of what it is. Like that's where they go.
Yeah, totally. So you need that bullpen, and that's great. But the halo itself is going to evolve. It's going to get better. Right now we have a set of weights on the floor. I see a set of weights, and then I see another layer where dumbbells and kettlebells can be, or I see some sort of apparatus that we just fold up quickly and now we can do GHD work.
Sure.
I see it evolving and getting way better. Just like the automobile didn't change much.
Sure.
But it got a lot better from an experiential standpoint. And that's where I see it going, is this is the way, but this is going to level up. As the equipment improves, as the technology improves, as what we're able to buy improves, as we can get people that can get on our team and on our side that can help us fabricate the stuff. I think that it's going to be absolutely incredible.
And that makes a great argument even for anyone who still is thinking, oh, well, why would I franchise when I can just do this myself? The car, you're right, has evolved. It is fundamentally the same thing. And guess what? There's how many different car companies out there? Can you really tell me the difference between a Toyota Corolla and a fucking Honda Civic, right? Like different brands, different styles, different looks, different price points, targets a different person, interior design is a little bit different. So if you truly think like in the next 10 years, if owners are smart, a lot of people go to this model, in a desire to save square footage, which is going to be the greatest precursor of profitability.
Yeah.
It truly is. Like you're being smart with square footage because that's your biggest nut after HR, hopefully.
Yes.
If currently your rent is still your biggest nut and HR isn't, you're probably in an earlier stage of the business type scenario, growing, developing these full-time employees, trying to get to that level. But if you believe that, and you're like, okay, well, I think a lot of gyms in even 5 years, this is what I think they'll be doing. Okay, cool. So then let's just say this becomes a standard. You can still that still makes sense to franchise an Industrious because it's just the one doing it better. It is the fucking the Mercedes Benz of the car, right? It's the elevated brand because it's been doing it longer,
exactly.
Right? The reason the F-150 is the number one fucking truck selling because they've been doing it the longest.
Yep.
They're always going to be a step ahead of you because they understand this better than you ever fucking will because you have 4 years doing it and you guys have been going on and whatever at that point. It's a no-brainer to me. Now, a couple things I wanted to make sure to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Some of the square footage, or not square footage, but some of the numbers and stuff of the business as we look at this. I asked you what kind of markets. You said, I don't think rural would work. And for most people, I think we'd all agree, like rural is going to be a tough fucking game type of scenario. You and me were talking about cities that you were kind of excited at and looking at.
Yep.
Just share a little bit of that. Like, again, you're doing it. I think you're doing well establishing a multi-unit market initially. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of benefit. I think, you can show that we don't eat our young. Like, we're not going to kill each other type scenario. We're smart with selection. But look at it. Talk to us about the different markets and cities maybe that you would be interested in that you think, just based on your experience or whatever research you've done, you'd like to see. And then talk to us on the multi-unit side of this thing. From a geographical protection, like how does one, maybe they are a CrossFit and they hate the idea that there's 7 CrossFits around them within 5 square miles. Right. How would being Industrious, are you going to fuck me over like F4 or F45 did where they just stacked fucking one unit unit deals on top of each other in the same zip code?
Yeah, no. So, we believe in a generous territory. And so what we, with our current, our 2022 FDD, we're getting ready to release our 2023 FDD, and territories are getting a little bit bigger. But with the 2022 FDD, we gave 150,000 people as a territory and 10 minutes to the gym. So we had our mapping company do that, and then they incorporated all the zip codes to make it so that 150,000 bubble was there, or that 10-minute bubble. So, so that's what, that's the territory size. Now, certain dynamics require us to look a little further, and as part of working with that franchisee, we can work on incorporating a few more zip codes to factor in the nuances that you can't just see on a map. Right, space and time things that only you can, sort of factor in by really spending some good quality time there with the franchisee and understanding the market a little bit more in what the competitive landscape is there. So that's kind of the cool thing about us is, we're relatively new, so we can go through and we can just click. You want that zip code, that okay, now does that feel good? Well, you can't give you the entire state of Colorado, sorry, but we can give you most of it.
You could, it would just cost money.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You technically could.
Yeah,
it only costs money.
So, but the markets that are super exciting to me, we've proven that a market similar to Seattle is going to just absolutely crush it. In Seattle, let's be honest, we haven't really been able to see how powerful this system is ultimately going to be when Seattle's full power comes back. Because I know what Seattle was like in 2019, and it was vibrant. Most of those people have left. Why would you stay here if you can work remotely? There is no reason to stay in Seattle, Washington from 2020 to 2023. Yeah. So we've been sort of limping along as it relates to we haven't had that influx that a lot of urban centers do have. And we've crushed it with those dynamics. We did this with COVID. We've driven these unit economics with a pandemic. But, markets that are super exciting for us are going to be places. Denver is really exciting. We have a lot of interest there. Texas and Florida, we get a lot of inquiries from those two states. I don't know if things are just super active down there, but someplace sunny and warm sounds good to me. What we've noticed here is that in these northern cities as well. So Chicago, Indianapolis. I spent a lot of time in Jersey, so Hoboken is really attractive to me. We have a lot of customers that moved back to New York or have moved to these other cities that are, when are you guys going to come?
Sure.
When are you going to come? LA would be great. San Francisco, I think we'd do really, really well in. And again, so to your point, we figured out a way that because in an urban center that's high population, high vibrance, you're probably looking at, pretty high price per square foot stuff, $30 to $50 a square foot. So we figured out how you can create a really, really solid business in a 4,000 to 6,000 square foot square or rectangle. And so, I like going more, busy, more urban, bigger market. But, if we opened up a one unit in a smaller market, mid-market like a Spokane, or a one unit in a market like Eugene, Oregon, or, Tulsa, Oklahoma, they're going to crush it. I like kind of working out from the big cities there because I think that grows the brand prominence a little faster. While one unit in a 300,000 person town, you're going to be the only dog at the bowl.
And it's efficiency. There were really successful places to get lunch that were Mexican before Chipotle.
Right.
Chipotle just did it in a clean, easy, organized. It just, again, I like it in my line. I like working the way down. I like building it as I go. I like seeing it being made, and I like and I'm out the door, or I'm sit there. Like, it cannot be understated enough. And I just feel like a lot of people at first are going to just like brush this off like, so there's work on the same spot. That's not that special. You got to experience it. And then you got to realize that it's just, again, the brand experience, whether it's Chipotle or this, it's a bunch of the little things that happen and all kind of come together. Now, as you're talking about different markets and places that open, you're right. This is a unique one. You have got a strong argument of like, if we did this well in shit conditions with COVID and all that, what does this look like in a market that, like in a Florida, right? That like COVID didn't really exist in Florida, right? Like in a market that's very strong and vibrant and things of that nature. Give me some real estate comps on this. So like in this location here, what do you guys pay per square foot here?
All in $33 a square foot.
33. So again, That's pricey real estate, right? That's pricey real estate. Was it venture to say, and I'm just thinking of conversations I've had with other franchises when we are looking at real estate and selection, would we say your success or failure hinges on site selection initially?
Not initially. It's important that the ideal is that you find a sort of the industrial space that is very retail-esque, right? It's sort of a flex space that is on a nice corridor or downtown, one of those hidden gems. But generally speaking, you're going to be you're going to have to choose retail or industrial. I mean, those are really the two options. And what we've seen here is that our unit economics are really, really solid in a high foot traffic environment. So I do think that it's probably more advantageous to pay up and have 16 halos next to Trader Joe's and next to the grocery store or Whole Foods or something like that, rather than be sort of off where you're not going to get that foot traffic. Because you can attract people through the internet, of course, and you can have really, really robust, Google profiles, and
digital marketing,
all this stuff. But we have attracted so many customers just because of the Windows effect, and this is fun to watch. It is, and then what's cool is they can watch it from outside. They can see it. They'll be like, "That looks rad. I want to do that." And then right out front, we've got QR codes that they can they don't have to feel like the awkwardness of walking in and asking questions. If they don't want to, they can just book that first class or find out more information, and they can go through and they can scroll and they can book their first class and they can come on in. And so I do think that there's a huge element to when people can walk by and see it that is important. If you're tucked back where nobody can see you, you'll still be okay. But
so site selection from a visibility means something to you guys, but there's definitely probably a number. Like I always tell people, if your rent is more than 25% of what you make per month, you're in a bad spot type scenario. You better have a contingency plan or some other way to manipulate your numbers. There's no way with your payroll and what the owner's going to take home that you're going to be in a bad spot. I mean, are there somewhere you'd sit down and be like, I mean, this is HVAC, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
No. Oh, no. This doesn't have HVAC.
There's no HVAC in here. Okay. Now, how hot does it get here in the summer?
Hot.
It gets hot.
Yeah. Ideally, this building would have been fully insulated.
Okay.
But we didn't do that because it was super expensive. So what we did as part of our energy code upgrade is we replaced all the glass.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this gets hot in here. So again, something like that wouldn't be like going forward. I see more often than you have heat in here though.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is heat in here. There's no AC. You got the big fans. So something like that, hey, I found a good warehouse space, no AC though. That wouldn't be a deal breaker then for you.
No,
okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Are there any real estate kind of deal breakers you obviously have to meet your parking codes and shit like that, but is there anything from real estate? Because again, a lot of franchises, they create a couple models and we need you in these because we've tested these and this is the model that makes this amount of money. For you guys, again, you're N equals 2 essentially type scenario, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are pretty much open to floor plans and sizes and different shapes and oddball things and no HVAC and all that.
Yeah, what we need is 4 walls.
Yeah,
and we need the place to be on brand, right? It can't be a dirty shithole. It can't. But if it's a clean and tidy building, if it's got 4 walls, you got a bathroom and shower set, and you've got some sort of rectangle or square that we can install, a line of 2 halos or 3 lines of halos or 4 lines of halos, then you're good. What we would hope for, though, is that, the franchisee is going to select a space that it helps for their own prominence and their own unit economics as well as ours. So, and I'm finding, maybe it's just because I've spent so much time researching the Seattle real estate market, which is a challenge. You almost sort of gotta get creative with this stuff to find a spot. Because it's hard in a challenging real estate environment to find any building that will work, and then pencil and then get past the city and all of the stuff that you got to do. Real estate is the biggest barrier. So we can't be overly restrictive on what is available because, at least as we're trying to expand and develop in Seattle, those facilities just probably don't exist. But other markets, it's probably a lot easier to find a space. And I bet you can find some sort of, building that's a freestanding building, but it's in the center of like the urban core. I mean, I found one in downtown Seattle, right? Yeah. So they do exist, but this is sort of the ideal. Can you get a standalone with a bunch of people around you? And, like I was just down in Phoenix and in Las Vegas. They're everywhere. They're everywhere and they're vacant. You can get them. Perfect buildings. And, but in Seattle, it's just harder to find it.
Yeah.
So I think it does have to do with the market.
Coaches wearing mics. It's just something that a lot of gyms, it's just not something they're doing yet. Can you just speak to the benefits you found from a client experience on the coach experience side to switching to a model where a coach is using a mic?
So if you don't have a mic, you got to group everybody up and you got to bring them
to you
and talk.
Mm-hmm. And turn down the music.
Right. Yeah. And what I just described is you just made your class get cold. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're instructing, you're teaching, you're presenting, whether it be against a whiteboard or some other form of tool to present or whatever it is. Maybe you're just demoing a snatch or gather around, let's talk about something, then I'll break off. Either way, I don't think that the traditional Monday through Saturday class experience should ever be a seminar. I think that we need to work on a couple of things, but know that we're all coming back tomorrow and we're going to work on other things. So it shouldn't be this in-depth class.
They need to have this learned by the time they leave here today.
Right. I tell our coaches all the time, stop trying to make them so perfect in movement. You're just going to frustrate them and you're going to frustrate you. Find the one thing for today and hit that. And then once they got it and they've made some progress, let them have fun. Let them work out. And so this kind of just spills into the whole effect of class momentum and class arc and class flow. And we use the term here crescendos. We want to build towards a big crescendo in the class. And if we're doing intervals, each one of those intervals, we carry into its own crescendo. But regardless, we're trying to get to those 2 claps where everybody feels amazing. They had a great workout and the experience was awesome. My mind is blown. I love it here still. Or if I'm new, I want to be here. And we're trying to get to that over and over and over again. If you do not have a way to spread everybody out and have them be able to hear you, you do not have a chance. And so the microphone is an absolute 100% must in this environment because nobody's going to be able to hear you. You don't have to group everybody up, get them cold, and then send them back out to go pick a spot. And not only pick one spot, they got to pick 4 spots because they need their spot on the floor, they need their spot on the pull-up bar, they got to go pick out their rowing machine, and then it's awkward the whole way. It's like, oh, are you going here? Oh, is it okay if I put... And people are nice, and so they're loving, and they're totally cool, and I probably sound like a jerk and all that right now, but these are legit pain points that people run into every single day because you have to keep bringing them together and then spreading them out and then bringing them together and spreading them out. And what's happening is they're not working out. I want them to work out. I want their fitness to improve. Yeah. I want their bodies to look amazing. I want them to get out of us, not just the skill on how to perform a high level technical movement, but I want them to get sweaty and out of breath and get the intended stimulus from the workout that day so that the number one reason that they're coming to us for is being solved for. Because if they're not getting those results, they're just going to leave. And so it still, at the end of the day, it all comes down to programming. It all comes down to, is this working for me and am I getting my fitness goals? And so, I'm really big into that. The microphone is an absolute must. And if you asked us to, if I asked anybody on our staff to coach without a microphone, they would just, I bet you they'd just quit. I mean, whenever we get a mic issue, the one thing that every coach panics about is, oh shit, we have a mic issue. It's it is a stop everything and get that shit fixed right now. It doesn't matter if it's midnight on a Sunday. The coach can't do their job.
They can't go backwards anymore. It's once you've done something at higher level, if you've ever flown first class and then you ever then get an economy ticket, you're like, God damn, man. It's hard to go back to something sometimes. When we had DVD or going back to dial-up, you can't go backwards. But you and me were joking about this earlier. It's female coaches have it the worst. They have to overcome the sound of music in poorly acoustically engineered spaces.
Right.
And the pitch of their voices, are like a male with maybe a higher pitched voice, it doesn't carry.
Right.
You can't reach the people on the other side in the middle of a workout when the music's going. It's like, why wouldn't you use a mic? And again, we all just think of like this Les Mills body pump type spin structure, and like it was this soft thing, right? Like we're like as if we're all supposed to be like Jocko Willink and just fucking yelling across the gym floor. But it's just smarter. It's a sophistication.
It is.
And it just like, if you want to stay back in the old school way of doing it, man, by all means. And there are plenty of businesses like, there's this one deli, and like it's a deli meat spot in Charlotte that every order is just taken by hand, cash only, fucking line out the door every day.
Oh yeah.
There's no QR code. There's no whatever. They're open literally from 9 a.m. to 2, and then they close when they run out of the chicken and shit that's done. And it does it really well. There's a dive bar in every fucking town that still sells PBR and Pabst, and like they don't have a fucking IPA. Like, and it kills. It does really well. Mm-hmm. They're few and far between, right? Like the odds of you being the dive bar that's that's cool and relative and financially sound is few. Right. So, but also, why does a coach have to go home and drink tea? Yeah. Every night at the end of a day, because their voice is hoarse.
Right. Well, and we look at it. So for us, we always go back to the programming. How can we design a system where we don't have to make sacrifices to what we can write from a programming perspective? Because we want the workouts to be rad. Like that workout that you see up there, you cannot do that in a traditional CrossFit gym. In the context of group, you can do that during open gym, but you can't do that with 20 people on the floor. Some of them are brand new, some of them are here on day one. You have to have a system that allows you to write that. And that's what almost everybody raves about our program, because it's so fun. Like that workout that we did yesterday.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can't do that. Any CrossFit coach that's ever programmed like double unders and wall ball shots, as an example, will never program something as simple as double unders and wall ball shots ever again, because of the clusterfuck that it is. You just can't. I mean, it's everybody's getting whipped, and you have people walking across the room.
If they don't have the space and like where the wall ball stations are, if it's too close to where people are doing the jump rope and all that stuff.
Right. We are big into just simplicity and things that are obvious, and in programming, the more simple and eloquent that it is by its design, the more effective it is.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you program like a Tabata, which is a super effective interval, right? Every CrossFit coach that's ever programmed a Tabata for their classes never did it again, because they couldn't talk for a week afterwards. So you start looking at these things of what's impacting our ability to write the coolest workouts that keep people engaged and excited and make them want to walk in here and do them. So that way it's just not like 5 minutes of burpees followed by 5 minutes of power cleans,
sure.
Right? Those things they burn people out and then they leave. So you need to eliminate all of these things that get in your way of writing really cool shit.
And to go, because I just know there's someone listening to this and they hear you say that, like, you can't do the wall balls and the double unders. And like, fuck you, Steven. I did wall balls and numbers in my gym the other day. Like, but not, okay, if you guys, again, were to be told that in 3,200 square feet, you could have 19 squat racks, 19 runners, 19 people doing double unders at the same time, and wall balls at the same time, and lifting barbells at the same time in 3,200 square feet. No, you couldn't. Like, that's what Steven's saying is, like, I challenge you to go into your gym if you have 3,200 square feet and make 19 people doing everything at the same time. Now, there are some gyms that might be running station-based models or, like circuits type scenario. That's how you have to leverage it. But we all know, like, maybe there's some monotony there. There's something like that that limits you on the programming side. And that's what Steven's saying.
Exactly. It's exactly what I'm saying. And, I think that a lot of people look at this system and they're like, well, you can't do handstand push-ups in the system. You're right. We don't necessarily need to. Now, I do think there's some value in some like wall walks and stuff like that. And minimal. But it can easily be installed, and we can do those things if we wanted to.
You could throw a sheet of plexiglass up against.
Easy. In this system, people look at what can I not do? Oh, I can't do ring muscle ups in class, and I can't do handstand push-ups in class. And so this is the interesting paradox: is they think that that's like a vulnerability. But what we can do in this is we can write all the things that are really, really fun and effective. Double unders and wall ball shots, bar facing burpees. We can write these types of movements that are really, really fun and effective in the open floor plan model. you can't do that stuff. You can't do the stuff that's really fun and effective because you can't do a bar facing burpee, right? Because people are going to get barbells dropped on themselves. And that's the thing, is that the open floor plan, people think I can do anything. Yes, you can if the gym is closed.
And or it's big enough. They're like, oh yeah, I can do all this. I'm like, how big's your gym? Like 7,000 square feet. I'm like, you do understand the benefit of being able to do it in 3,200 square feet, right?
With other people.
With and it not being on top of each other.
Right, exactly. And so the open floor plan allows you to do sort of whatever you want for a few people, but it is restrictive in the movements that are the most effective, the most potent. If you go back to like some of the old materials on what produces optimal fitness, it's basic couplets and triplets, it's, chippers and singles, and you can't write that stuff in the context of group. This is, if you look at what these halos are, this gets back to the sort of the real raw essence of what it ultimately probably started out of, which is, this is a garage gym. These are all the same little garage gyms that are on our floor. And within those garage gyms, we can do garage gym real fucking shit, real movements. And I think that oftentimes when people see this, they think of the two things that you can't do. And then but they don't realize that we get to do the stuff that is the most core, most effective, the 9 foundational, the stuff that has been proven that is the most potent and effective programming.
So mainly, again, when people are thinking about it, like your programming in the CrossFit type gym setting is generally bottlenecked by equipment, inventory, and space. And that is essentially the main problem this solves. So it unlocks programming potential because everyone has a piece of equipment and they're all able to do it at the same time if needed. You don't have to run heats or waves due to limitations and things like that. Guarantee you there's someone listening to this that is thinking to Jason Khalipa and NC Fit's move of rebranding with CrossFit kind of scenario. And they look at this like, okay, you guys are essentially doing CrossFit. You run a much better model than what most CrossFit gyms look like. Would you ever rebrand with CrossFit if Don Fall or whoever the CEO is in fucking 2 years or whatever that looks like, they continue to do a great job? Would there ever be a scenario which Industrious jumps back into it? Because that's probably the fitness model that because CrossFit's a fitness model, kids. It's not a business model.
Right.
It's never have been and never was meant to be. Would you ever align yourself again with the fitness model?
Sure. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that a well-written program is going to incorporate CrossFit workouts several times per week, as well as it probably needs to incorporate hypertrophy training and strength development in weightlifting and all of the stuff. So, and we're big into let's write all the stuff that people want to do, So like today is weightlifting, and then, you could call this CrossFit. I'm okay just calling it CrossFit.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that the short answer.
But you guys would reaffiliate? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So what's the thing that's stopping you from doing it now?
The problem is we all learned the hard way, and I figured, I was always worried about this early on, which is why we got away from like the print branding. At first we were all CrossFit, little Industrious.
Yeah.
And then, I saw the risk in that. There's things that were red flags. I'm like, this could potentially be bad. We need to pull that safety net out from underneath us. And we need to, very early on, back in 2014, CrossFit came off of all of our print stuff, all of our website, everything. I mean, it was still, we're affiliated on the bottom, but I needed to see if we had the stuff to stand on our own 2 feet. And Industrious was one of the first ones that started doing that. And, it was, sort of, we'll call it a little bit renegade, but I did see that we need to be a brand. We need to figure it out on our own, and we have now. So now I don't think that we necessarily need to, but it's more or less just a nod. Molly and I, we met doing CrossFit in a CrossFit gym. We opened up a CrossFit gym. That's how it got us started. We love doing CrossFit workouts. I love the people that I've met along the way in the CrossFit community. We want to continue to honor that, but we don't need to. And that's the liberating thing, is that Industrious can stand on its own 2 feet. I think that that's what everybody probably is trying to work towards or work for. I think that this might not be this way for everybody, but for me, it was certainly. You're on this constant quest to figure out what your unique selling proposition is going to be. What sets me apart? What makes me different? And I think that every gym should be pursuing that. If they're not pursuing that, then they're commodity. They're competing on space and time and price. And market conditions can shift and change, and it's just a dangerous spot to be. What we've done is we've worked so hard over the years at building something that was protected and could we could control the fate, so to speak. And I think for us too, there was another aspect that was important, which was when we're building this thing out, we want to be able to control the customer experience. And I noticed that it became harder and harder and harder the more that we tried to lean towards and be the CrossFit gym and react and respond to what the CrossFit movement was putting out, generally driven by the CrossFit Games. Because remember, we reached that point where it was ring muscle ups got called out in the open, and now we got to install 40 sets of ring.
50-pound dumbbells.
Right.
That,
exactly. So you're constantly trying to keep up with this thing, and you're trying to, force that into what you're trying to do. And you almost felt like you were not in control. And so I remember trying to respond, because that was just the times. Our team was up until midnight, 2:00 in the morning, trying to get things set up and make facility upgrades based off of the workout that came out at 5 p.m. or whatever. These things, the more and more that you allow the experience to be outside of your control, the harder it is to create a good customer experience. So we saw it this year with the Open. As a nod, we programmed the Open workouts on Friday. Well, sure enough, when we can write our own programming, it fits our model, it fits our system. And so we said, let's just do it, because people are probably going to want to do those workouts anyway. So let's put them up on the board and we'll do them on Fridays. But then we don't know what the workout is till Monday. And then we got this big distraction on how are we going to do this shit and all this stuff. And so then the customer experience begins to diminish. And so it's so much better to just be able to control your own destiny.
Have you found, so a few things, would they even allow you as a franchise now to be an affiliate?
I don't know.
Because your affiliate would still just apply to a singular location, but as a franchise concept, I don't know of another franchise. There's been plenty of corporately owned multi-unit, NC Fit, Brick, all those were not franchises though.
Right.
So I don't know of any franchise concepts that are also affiliates.
Yeah, either do I.
So, whether they'd even let you play is another thing. But, it's number two, it's when I tell people, it's man, it's just go all, when a gym owner's I'm going to sign a lease for my, I'm like, all right, cool. And they're thinking 2 years. I'm like, the fuck's wrong with you 2 years? Are you betting on yourself for what?
Right.
In 2 years, and then the fair market value's up way high, you can't afford it, you got to move to a new location, bet on yourself. It's do you find maybe even doing, trying to do the Open and then kind of not even able to do it all that well because things like the wall walk that don't meet your fitness model. Your fitness model it's CrossFit inspired. It looks very much like CrossFit, but it is not what one who does follow CrossFit HQ or another CrossFit gym would walk in, and there are some differences. Yeah. Does that start making a little bit of confusion in the customer's head? Wait, what are we again? I thought this industrial, do you have any concern of that?
I do. Yeah. I don't think that you can. I've noticed the more that we've moved away from it, the easier it was. And the more that we get kind of pulled back into it a little bit, the more it muddies the waters a little bit.
What pulls you?
It's built into our DNA as a business. It truly is. We were started out as a small CrossFit affiliate. It was a beautiful thing. It was
How many years have you been in business now?
We opened up in 2011.
Okay.
And it was just Molly and I, and it was a small group of 100 customers that we built, and then it grew to 150, and then grew to 200, and it was beautiful. It was all of the things.
13 years in business then. Mm-hmm. Am I doing the math right?
Yep.
How many years as an affiliate?
From 11 all the way up to 20.
Okay. Yeah. So essentially a decade. Okay. Yeah. So the majority of your life, you're right, has been. You've had that identity. Exactly. This is a new way that things can be delivered doing CrossFit. And, I think that one of the things that CrossFit never did figure out is how to do a floor plan. Sure. Yeah. I think they said, figure it out. And, I do think that the optimal floor plan, the optimal business model was going to come out of the affiliate base. And, I do think that this is it. And, so I would love to see them be that's a best practice. Mm-hmm. Why try to compete against that? Sure. And same with us. It doesn't have to be that way. There's so much great
mind sharing that can go to make everybody better. And, we have to go after our own vision and our own goals that we've set as a company, and we've set it as a culture here. And, we can't constantly pull ourselves back from evolving and letting this beautiful thing be what it really should be, because we're trying to, be, old school, raw, authentic CrossFit, like, oh, we sold ourselves to the devil. We can't have that mindset. We have to pursue excellence. And if it makes sense that, we are intertwined with CrossFit and in a loving relationship, that's great. And if we're not, that's great. We got to do our thing. CrossFit needs to do their thing. Both brands need to evolve. But the reality is, we're going to do CrossFit workouts because we already are every single day.
Sure. Talk to me about the patent.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Because we were talking about yesterday, I'm like, how do we patent a floor layout? Like, how does that, because there's patents and then there's it's kind of like non-competes for employees. Yes, you can totally have one, and it is legally a non-compete. Will you ever enforce it? It's like a gym owner's like, I've got contracts. I'm like, and tell me the name of the collection company you use. And they're like, well, we don't use one. I'm like, so then what do you do to enforce this fucking thing?
Yeah.
But just talk to me, why would you go? Because it's not cheap.
Right.
Why go the type of patent you have on this? Why go through the process? And just talk to me about that whole thing.
Yeah. So the reason that we decided to do it was we knew that when we saw it, we all looked at it. I mean, we literally were like, oh gosh, we got to protect this. This is going to get knocked off. And so we reached out to an attorney that specializes in patents and trademarks. And we did a provisional patent first, which means that you sort of lock it in. You can start saying patent pending, and it's an initial basic filing, and you have 24 months to really hone in on the idea and get it into its final form before you can file your
with the USPTO and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So all that, the provisional patent you file with the USPTO as well.
Okay.
But once you get down to showtime where you file your actual patent, you got to do that within 2 years of your provisional patent. And so patenting it adds a layer of protection, or as a deterrent, I think, for most people. Yeah, you can go ahead and knock it off or try to install it. But the reality is that we could send you a cease and desist, and you're not going to be able to. We've done that with our trademarks because people have knocked off the hammer and axe. And
logos, I get. Logos are easier. It's something that's going to be on merchandise, and it's very specific. Like when you do a patent for a logo, I mean, the actual the angle of the hammer and all that. Right. I mean, it's all very specific. Talk to me about the patent, because this is you said a utility patent.
Utility patent.
Okay. Yep. So patenting, and then it's not just the 13 by 13 square. Talk to me about the utility patent.
Yeah. So the way that it's written is it's a workout station, and it doesn't matter what combination of equipment you decide to put in the workout station. It's a novel concept, meaning that it's new. You can't. This system doesn't exist anywhere else.
Well, how do you think of Division I strength and conditioning facilities that have power racks, just kind of like this? How is that in a different category? Because patents are also you can get a logo patent, but it's got to be you got to pick all these different categories, 2-digit codes of which categories you're applying it for.
Sure.
What do those conversations with the lawyer look like?
Yeah. So there's two things that it ultimately comes down to. Is one, it has to be not obvious.
Okay.
Not obvious. And the two is that it needs to be novel. And so this is not an obvious, because we're setting a dedicated workout station, whereas a strength and conditioning facility is you have squat racks and you have lifting platforms, but you don't have the other equipment. And so so we've got that covered, but then we have the whole grid system of the Halo system is included in that patent filing. And so it's not a design patent. So a design patent is where an Apple store, where you walk into an Apple store and it's that design that you can envision, that can't be replicated. They have a patent on just the design elements.
Sure.
This is a utility patent, just like an invention, like a tool. It functions in a certain way. And it'd be like if you created the Swiss Army knife, you have the patent on any type of blade you can put in there. This is the Swiss Army knife of a fitness workout station. And you can put, a different treadmill in there, or you can put a different rower or a skier or something else. It still doesn't matter. It's still a Swiss Army knife. This is the Swiss Army knife. Put whatever blades you want. It's still protected underneath the patent.
Got it. So Okay. So, and then the nice thing is this ultimately is one of these things where it's a weapon you've got, it's a tool you've got. The odds of actually having to whip it out and do something with it. But if I'm a franchisee, I want to make sure that you've covered all the bases. I want to know you've spent money covering as many bases as possible. I mean, I'm looking at this beautiful front desk, and you've even got the registered mark on the Work Hard, Live Fit. I mean, you're in, those Sprinter vans that you have that have the logo all over it. And that's the point. Like, you've done such a thorough job of this to ensure that, like, we've taken every precaution possible to make sure to protect your investment in this brand. And I think that's ultimately what that comes down to. Someone's going to listen to this and be like, you can't, like, whatever, you're going to come sue me? Like, maybe not. But again, it is the concept of, like, covering all your bases. Because while now at 4 units, sure, maybe that's not where we're going to spend any of our liquid right now, is going and chasing down some random fuckhead gym in Miami, Ohio.
Right.
But get it to 50 units, 100 units, and someone's popped up 3 now with doing my thing. 100%, we might show up and hit you with a C&D at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. We will protect it. And, we've invested a lot. We know that we're the first through the wall. So we got bloodied in the process of coming up with this, and we absolutely protect it. If somebody just sees it and tries to steal it, that to me, it's really, disrespectful, and we would act on that. To your point, if it's, early on, we might choose not to, like, go after that, but as we develop into those markets, we want to try to nip the problem in the bud as soon as we possibly can. Yeah. And so, I think that you're right. That's the thing that is awesome, is one, even if you did knock it off, it's still going to come off probably as a knockoff. And two, we've got it protected by the patent. Yeah. And, you're right, because when you work for a decade trying to figure out what your special system is going to be, you need to protect that.
It's so I made a video. It's called "Dude, You Stole My Brand," or "Dude, Dude, You Stole My Brand," or "Dude, You Stole My Gym," or something like that. We had literally people take my exact Urban Movement logo, take out Urban, and spell Mountain Movement. We had people literally come up with a different name, but the same square, and an awesome place for people to work out and get work done. Like, literally steal head to toe the entire thing. I've got scrapers on Google set. Like, if Urban Movement pops up, I'll get notifications and Google entries and shit like that. And we had them all copied. We had everything copyrighted, trademarked. Just random gym owners who listen to WTF just fucking be like, dude, you got to see this shit, and send me, like, websites and all that. And I would DM these guys, and I'd be like, listen, man, I'm honored. I'm flattered. Like, just whatever. Like, in the next 90 days, man, could you knock it off? Like, I hope you didn't buy any signage or something like that. You know? And I'm like, if you don't, I'm literally gonna embarrass the living shit out of you on the internet first, and try to bully you into this, and then I'll send you a C&D. And I remember having a conversation with my staff. They're like, what's the point of that, Stu? Like, why? We don't give a fuck about this gym in fucking Montana. It's like, it's the point of, like, if I don't say something about it early on, because that's the other thing with trademarks. If somebody rips this off, and you knowingly know about it, and you allow it to persist, they now have an actual argument in court that their presence was well known by the trademark and patent holder, and no C&Ds or anything were filed, and that negligence on your part, it works in their favor. I mean, because Rachel Brentke, she was the one I hired that did all my stuff. Yeah. And so Rachel, me and her had thorough discussions about trademarks with the license model I was running. She's like, and that's the problem, is if you have one and you know an infringement, you have to act on it. If you don't, it is actually a submission that works for the other party. Oh, got it. So it's like you got to set up your scrapes on the internet so that you can do image-based scrapes. So when you see halos pop up or whatever, or the word or whatever, you have to act on it, and there's got to be a paper trail on it. Even if you don't actually sue them, you have to show that paper trail in the court, because if it gets big enough, or some company with bigger pockets than you wants to pump out 30 fucking industrious little ripoffs, and they've been doing it for 5 years under the veil, and you didn't say anything, that makes you very vulnerable in court. That's crazy. Yeah, so it's like, it's smart that you're doing it, because I know some people are fucking listening to this like, that's fucking dumb. Like, no, it's not. Right. This is what, like, big companies and people that think bigger than you think of is long-term protection. They think of the what ifs,
Right.
and they're willing to lift up the assault runner and vacuum underneath of it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Is what they're fucking willing to do.
Exactly.
Listen, man, I truly appreciate you sitting down and kind of sharing all this stuff as far as this goes. I got one last question as it relates to franchising this kind of a concept.
Mm-hmm.
In 5 years from now, let's say you're now, you've got 10 to 15 units. You could probably maybe chill out on your royalties and stuff like that at that point. What other thing would Stephen Hitt do? Like when this is like where do you see, like, would you ever get into consulting? Do you have other like brand ideas and other fitness product or fitness adjacent things? Like with, I could also see you coming up with products, like with all the things you're trying to do to conserve square footage. Like what's the other thing? Let's just say we could fast forward and check the box on this and you're there. You've successfully, whatever franchising was success for you, you hit it.
Yeah.
What would you do next?
Oh, that's a good question. My mind is always going, and I'm always thinking of a new or better, cooler way of doing things. For me, I've been so, just enthralled with introducing the Halos and franchising and getting that project, going, that I haven't really put too much thought into, what is next for me. I've always joked that all of my best ideas have always come from behind a mop bucket, when I'm just cleaning the gym. Like Work Hard, Live Fit came while I was mopping, and our aspiration came while I was mopping. And, every time I'm watching a class work on the floor, it'll just come to me, something will happen, and I'll just, I'll get that vision, and then I go. And I think that for me, I've really come to love the people development side, and I love teaching. I love teaching all aspects of how to operationalize facilities like this, and wowing customers. And I don't know what it is yet, but I know it's going to be something that is along those lines. The main thing for me is I want to continue to help other people be successful, and it's always sort of been. Molly and I, the first thing that we ever wrote down on a cocktail napkin when we opened up Industrious was go broke changing people's lives. And, every time I talk about that, I get emotional, but it's so true. We're doing this for other people. I don't want all of those hard mornings of waking up in the middle of the night to get to the gym and get it unlocked in the pouring rain and, in just work your ass off. I did all that so that other people don't have to do it. And, that's what's really exciting for me in doing this and franchising it, is that this provides that solution for people that, to not have to go through what I did and be successful and have, hopefully have this be something that really fuels and enriches their life and doesn't suck the life out of them and make them as calloused as sort of I've become. And so it's going to be something in that regard. I think that it's about making Industrious as good as it can be and changing as many lives as we possibly can. And I do think that's why we ultimately landed on this system. It just reaches more people, and we're having a bigger impact against more people. And I think that it's just that. I found what I love to do. I found what fills me up inside, and what gets me out of bed every day, and makes me want to help other people get out of bed every day. And I just want to keep doing that, and I'm always working hard. It's just as time has gone on, I'm just working hard on other things. But it all comes down to somebody's walking through that front door. They want help. We're here to help them. And I want to make it so that anybody can walk into one of our gyms, whether it be a company-owned gym or a franchisee's gym, and have that person be welcomed and get in return for what they're paying us for, get a quality of life that's just much better.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Hitt, man, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.